good afternoon or good evening to most. Good evening. We're going to give everyone just another minute or two to get in the room. We thank you all for joining us today. Please make sure you smash that like button and share this video so we can get all of this great information out to our fellow Gwinnetians. Thank you all for joining. Give us just a minute and we will go ahead and get started. Just want to give everyone just a little bit of time to get in. We're also going to be participating today via chat or via our messaging here on Facebook. So make sure you leave some comments and we'll throw it up here on the screen so your question can get asked. Big hello from me to you right here. So make sure you are interacting right here in the comments so we can do some talking and sharing some information. I'm going to bring up our wonderful president, President Penny Poole. Hi there, President Poole. How are you today?
Hey, good evening, Simeon. Blessings to everyone who took the time out to join us this evening. We have some great information for you. We pray that you are staying safe, that you are vaccinated, that whatever decision you made for you and your family, that everyone is healthy and well. Again, we just want to welcome you. Let me turn it back over to Simeon.
All right. Well, how about we start with the prayer like we always do? I think that'd be a good place for us to start, and then we can get going. Uh, Lord, thank
And
you
I'm
for
going to
bringing
ask
us
you
here.
to pray, Simeon,
Oh,
tonight. Thank
I was about to. I was already there. We got the prayer going. We are in the mode, in the right mode today. So absolutely, Lord, thank you for being here, and thank you for bringing us all here in the name of justice, community, and family. We ask that you bless everyone hearing, everyone participating, all of our members, and all of the citizens here of Gwinnett. As we embark on some of the more challenging times in this current era, we ask that you fight for justice, that you give us the strength to continue to fight for justice, that we all put our best foot forward to get the equitable type of county that we know we all deserve. We ask that you guide us and continue to guide us as we embark on this journey together. Thank you in your name. Amen.
Amen. To our God and your God, thank you again for coming out. I want to say good evening and from our first Vice President, Edward Paul, our second Vice President, Hope Dennis, our Secretary, Adrian Johnson, Treasurer, Princess Hawkins, Parliamentarian Pete Tigerson, our PAC Chair, Edward Paul, our Membership Chair, Angela Whitlock, Education Chair, John Cox, Legal Redress, Hope Dennis, Members at Large, Miss Ada Brown, Constancia Carter, and our very own Simeon Harris. Good evening. Welcome. Happy holiday seasons from the Gwinnett NAACP. We're hoping that this is a time that family, community are coming with one accord and sending this message of community and love out. Your Gwinnett NAACP is so very excited that you are in this room tonight. We have much on our agenda. We're going to go through our business very quickly, and that includes us accepting the minutes from our last meeting in November. We have our video recording that we're ready to send out to our paid membership to have our minutes. Can I get a motion from the floor to accept these minutes from last month's meeting?
I motion that we accept the minutes from our last month's meeting.
And we will get a second from the floor. There's a second from the floor. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And no opposed. So we accept the video recorded minutes from our November 9th, 2021 meeting. Any other documents that are necessary for our membership, please contact. We will share with you as we are virtually broadcasting, and so that we can make sure that our minutes and documents are in order. Moving on tonight. The old business also includes committee reports and our new youth council reports. And specifically speaking about our youth council, we're talking about Victoria Chirac and then Alexandria Chirac. We wanted to give them a personal shout out. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Our youth is tentatively meeting the second Saturday of the month. Again, the second Saturday of the month. And this will get confirmed when we have more people inputting for that date that is good for all. And we just again want to be moving right along. So let's go into our first guest. There's just so much happening here in Gwinnett County, and what concerns everyone. And we're hearing reports that are conflicting, but we hope to get a clearer vision tonight after we have Representative Rebecca Mitchell, who is an epidemiologist, among other licensed professional here in Gwinnett County. Rebecca, good to see you tonight.
Thanks for having me. I feel like I'm the voice of cheer everywhere I go these days. So, but I'd love to give you a little bit of update about where we are in the epidemic, which is unfortunately still right in the middle of the epidemic. And I think one of the questions I get a lot these days is, what does the new variant mean? And I think there are three things we have to think about when we see a new variant. We've seen a lot of them now, right? We saw the first one, we saw Beta, we saw Delta, and now we're seeing Omicron. And there are three questions I ask myself as an epidemiologist when we see a new strain. How well does it transmit from person to person? How well do the protections we have in place right now help us? And how sick would this strain a variant make us if it was transmitting here well? And for Omicron, we are actually in a space where we have data on two of those, and not so much yet the third. So we know that Omicron transmits from person to person very well, and it actually transmits much faster than the previous variants we had. And we saw that it initially was spreading in South Africa and in Botswana. And that was where it was detected first, because they have a surveillance system and they put in the sequences, and all of a sudden people started talking about it. When it appeared, there were just a few cases. Then as more areas around the world started looking for it, we realized it was already quite widespread, right? So other areas started seeing it spread. Denmark has seen a lot of spread because they have a very good surveillance system. The UK has seen quite a lot of spread, and we've actually seen it in dozens of states here in the US as well. So Omicron transmits very well and is going to be the next big variant that we see here. The second question is, well, how well do the protections we have right now work for this strain, for this variant? And we know that things like the protections we had before we had vaccines, so masks, keeping your distance, not eating indoors with people you don't live with, those type of protections, they're always going to be something that protect us, right? If you're trying not to get the flu or you're trying not to get a cold and you stay away from other people, your risk goes down. Same is true for COVID. So those protections still work. The data we're getting now is looking at how well our immunity works. And we have multiple sources of immunity, right? A lot of people previously got infected with one of the previous variants and said, "Oh, I've been infected, so I'm not at risk of getting this new variant," which was actually much more true for previous variants. So having been infected with Beta did protect you some from Delta. It does not look like that protection is as good for Omicron. So if you previously had COVID and you have not taken the opportunity to get vaccinated, and you are willing to, there has been a change in how well protected you are. So now, if you are willing to get vaccinated, it is a good time to do that because we know your protection is less good. We also know that people who had the initial 2-dose series are less protected from getting infected. They are still reasonably protected from getting very sick, but not as good as before. So those numbers are still being determined, but it looks like without a booster, the efficacy of the vaccine is somewhere under 50% for getting infected. But for hospitalization, the numbers are looking more like 70%, and that's very preliminary data. So the 2-dose initial series is still helping prevent hospitalization decently well, and we would expect that it'll prevent deaths better than it will hospitalizations. But that data is still coming out because this has moved so fast. There aren't that many people who are in that window where we can see how well they're recovering and how much illness there is. So we need to wait a little bit to know those numbers. But it looks like the initial 2-shot series works less well than it did for other variants for preventing infection. It still works fairly well for hospitalization, but getting your booster is now really important because it looks like those boosters people who have the booster are in a much better place than people who've just had the first 2 shots. So unfortunately, we're in the situation where everybody who has the option to get extra protection, we're in a space to do that. And then the third question I asked was, how sick do you get? And that is the one we're still waiting for information on. So right now, there is a lot of information coming out telling us infections are going to be mild. I sincerely hope that we see that this variant is milder than previous variants. However, we can see, if you look at populations of folks who have not had a lot of vaccine in them, people are still filling up hospitals. So because there's so much transmission, even if we have a little bit fewer people who get quite sick, we are still getting a large number of people in hospitals in South Africa, for example. So we know that people are still getting seriously ill from Omicron. They're still requiring hospitalization, and that will be a large number of people if this moves very quickly. So our hope is that everyone is willing to take the precautions they can that are in front of them. So if you were wearing a mask and you're comfortable putting your mask back on, now is the right time to do that. If you were considering getting vaccinated and you haven't made that decision yet, now is the right time to do that. If you haven't gotten your booster yet, but you're eligible, now is the right time to do that. Everything we can do that slows down the spread of this does 2 things. It means when people get sick, there are not as many at the same time, so there's less burden on our healthcare system. And also, the slower this moves, the more time we have to get information about how what the impact is going to be here. So everything we do collectively helps our community stay safer. And I'm sorry, I am not the voice of cheer, but this is unfortunately where we are in this epidemic at this time. We are again looking at a situation where we need to think, what can we do to protect our entire community by slowing down transmission?
Okay, thank you for that great abatement information. Where does it look like for the holidays with Omicron, and possibly even for our future for our children in school? Do you think it may affect them or even our economy the way our economy is going?
So economy is harder to predict. In Gwinnett, I know it will impact our schools. I expect to see, because Gwinnett is moving to a threshold-based math system in our schools in the spring. What we are seeing now, even before we have dominant Omicron in Georgia, we are seeing the numbers of cases per 100,000 increase. So there was a moment there where we were at the threshold where our schools would be mask optional, and we are already back up above that threshold. And I anticipate that in January we will continue to be at that threshold. So there'll be an immediate impact in that our children will not be in a mask optional environment. And I am concerned if we were to see a lot of transmission, that we would have challenges with schools, both with students getting sick, but also the potential that we would lose we would have a lot of people who need substitutes, and we potentially see a crisis trying to get enough staff for there. But I don't I don't interact with the schools directly, so I don't know how much they're discussing that. But certainly, if we see a large wave that comes through very quickly, we're at much more risk for having to ask, can our schools stay open, just from a logistics standpoint?
I know from the instructional side, many of the teachers, even prior to this day now, are very, very uncomfortable in these classrooms. And we have been getting reports, again, they're unsubstantiated, but reports that the numbers that are being reported are not directly affecting these schools. Have you heard any of that information, or where can parents go to look on a daily basis to see what numbers are being reported?
So we do have reporting at the schools on a daily basis at the county website. And I haven't checked recently to see if they're still updating this actually at the county website, but you used to be able to see, and I believe it's still there, per day in your school, whether there have been cases reported. It's a little bit challenging because as the home tests get more available, we have less information because they're not mandated reporting, right? If I have a positive test at home, no one knows. If I have gone and gotten a PCR test or gotten a test from the doctor, then that is actually required to be reported to the state. So we'll see different as the pandemic progresses, and as we see the use of home tests being a lot more common, that information is going to be harder to track unless we end up with more an ability to report the home test to the state. And I have seen discussion about that, but I haven't actually seen how they're planning to implement that.
Simeon, let's see if we have any questions from our audience for Dr. Mitchell.
Yes, please. And I will tell you, Dr. Mitchell, you're not just doom and gloom. It's because of you that I'm not wearing surgical gloves.
Okay. That's true. I saved you from being
so you saved me from
strange.
being that guy who had the surgical gloves on in Kroger and everything. Okay, so if nothing else, there's no doom in that in letting my hands free now.
No.
So
I will say you should wear a better. Are you wearing a cloth mask, or are you wearing a surgical mask, or are you wearing the fitted one?
I'm still on 95. I'm still on the N95.
Awesome.
Yeah, I bought so many early. I was buying them in packs of 50, and so I still have for that reason. But one of the things that I've heard people mention is, as they talk about booster shots, it's giving us flu shot vibes, right? Like, is this something where it's like every year, is this a thing where now every year you're going to be needing to take a booster? And if that is the case, I wonder, is there any concern of people starting to opt out just like they do with the flu shot? When I first got vaccinated, I was thinking it's one and done. So, or two and done. And now it's like a booster. And I'm someone, while I'm vaccinated, I'm someone who's never had a flu shot. I've never taken a flu shot. My entire life, I've never taken a flu shot, never actually had the flu either. But I've never taken a flu shot, and I probably won't start next year either. But I am vaccinated with against corona. And so I just wonder, are folks like me maybe going to say, you know what, not every year? And I wonder what the effect of that in relation to the virus.
So that's a great question. And I think we're still in an open space with that. And there's a couple reasons we're in open space with that, right? So there are shots that your initial series is three shots. There are actually quite a few of them. We just don't remember them because when we got those 3 shots, we were usually really little. But so rotavirus is an oral vaccine we get 3 times. The Twinrix series, you get 3. So it's in 4 or 5 of them where you actually get 3 shots as your initial series. And when you look at scientists looking at this data, they do often question whether what we're really looking at is a 2-shot series and a booster, or whether this was really going to end up being a 3-shot series. And then the question of whether we need it annually is going to depend on 2 things, right? One is how well we maintain immunity after the 3rd shot. And the second one is how much infection is happening in the world. Because the reason you get the flu shot every year isn't that your immunity waned. It's that the flu actually changed, right? As it went around the world, the flu changes fast enough that by the time it gets back around the world for the next season, it looks different. And you need a different shot. So it's not even a booster for flu, right? They're actually each individual shots. because they're dealing with the thing you see today is not the thing you saw last year. And that is possible. That is possible with corona, but it depends on how much transmission is happening, right? The less that's transmitted, the less it can change. It's just math, right? If I change once every, million people I hit enough, then by the time I get all the way around the world, I've changed quite a lot. But if not very many people are sick, it just doesn't have that much opportunity to change.
Oh, makes sense. It looks like we also have a question here. And I think I have the answer, but we'll ask it just to be sure. What about KN95 masks? Are they just as good as N95s? And go ahead.
What were you going to say? Let's see if we're on the same page.
Well, they're different standards. So N95 is an American standard, whereas your KN95 is a Chinese standard. Both of the 95s talk about the amount of particles that can get in or the amount that are trapped out. And so I know N95 is a little bit harder to find right now, and you can find a lot of KN95. So I've been under the impression that they're fairly interchangeable as it pertains to the amount of particles that come in. They're just different standards based on country.
Yep, I love that. And there's also the standard in the EU is like FFS 3, 4s, and 2s and 3s. And yeah, same idea, different country. I agree with that. Also, a statement about those, as far as if you're choosing between your cans and your N95s, the one that fits your face better and you're more comfortable wearing is always going to be the better option for you. If you will keep it on the whole time you're in company, that's the right mask for you. Even if for you that is not as optimal a mask, when you wear an N95, you find yourself having to take it off, then that is not the right choice for you, right? Mm-hmm. So the surgical mask under a cloth one, then for you could be a more appropriate choice.
Yeah, I found that it's easier to find the X large mask in KN95 right now. So I always search for an extra large mask, and depending on how big my beard gets, I need a little bit extra to make sure that I got a decent seal. So
I thought that question was for Tanisha. Her beard is not substantial, so
you don't have to worry about that part, Tanisha. Great question. Awesome. I don't see.
Are there any other?
I do see one more, Penny. Is the treatment once diagnosed reported? And I think you kind of spoke to that previously. That's a question for one of our awesome members, John. So once diagnosed, is treatment reported? And I think I understand that question.
I don't actually know how they do the reporting on treatment, but there are a couple different treatments, right? And so there's antibody treatments, and there were actually multiple different antibody treatments that monoclonal antibodies that were being used before. 2 of those 3 no longer work with Omicron. So there's only one antibody treatment left. However, there is a new pill that has just gone through approval, I believe. And that one is, you need it within the first 3 days of, I believe, showing symptoms. But that one is new that we will see with Omicron. How well that one. Yeah,
I believe that's the one by Mlk Pharmaceutical who did.
There's 2, right? There's a Merck and a Pfizer, and one of them works better than the other. But obviously I shouldn't comment on which one by name on that. But hopefully we will see all of our treatments being available and accessible during this wave to help make sure that we are doing all we can to keep people safe and out of the hospital before they're in there.
And one more question. I'm sorry, go ahead, Penny.
Are these shots, is all of this still being offered free through the community? Because there's so many different things that have happened, so that we can let our audience know that.
Vaccines, yes, still definitely free. Vaccines are free. Tests are still free. They just did some, so federally they're moving to home tests being reimbursable for people who have private health insurance. And they're also moving to a model where the home tests could be picked up, but that won't happen until January. And it's a little bit complicated. I'm hoping to see that they move between now and January to make that system simpler for home tests as well. But the PCR tests are still free, like the drive-through tests are still free, and the vaccinations are still free.
Good. We want to make sure that this is available to everyone still. Please don't let people, if they're asking for your insurance information, that doesn't mean they cannot serve you. That means that they will charge you if you have it. So please let everyone know that these services are still free if needed. Go ahead, Simeon. Let me let you wind up so we can get our other guests on.
Sure, absolutely. And okay, and John just provided some clarification. He was talking in regards to people who test at home and then get treated, where the treatment is the only record of the infection.
Yes. So I think they would test
That's a
them
good
again at the
question,
point
John.
when they get treated. Usually previously you had to have the positive test while you were in the medical facility to be counted as positive, but I am not clear where they stand on that now. But that's a great question. So whether people would get recorded or not based on treatment alone, that I don't know.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, I am glove free because of you. So I appreciate you, and I always appreciate you coming to our meetings and sharing this information from a professional perspective. It's nice to have someone that you know and you've seen around share this information, because we know it's not just a talking head trying to move us into a particular direction. So I think what you bring to the community in these updates is really important, and we appreciate you always being so active with the Gwinnett NAACP.
And is there another site that you can give us to go to if we do not have children in school, just to get daily updates and to see how the numbers are that day being reported? What site can we go to, please?
Yeah, so every day I check this because it's updated for Georgia every day at 2:51 p.m. If you Google GADPH COVID and click the first link, that is the link to the state page. And if you wait a minute, because it actually takes a minute to load, then you can scroll down and see all the details. And that's details about cases. They break them down by whether they're PCR positives or antigen positives. You can look at the percentage of cases, and you can they break it down by age and by county as well. So you can get all that information for Gwinnett or any other county that you want. And that's updated once a day. GADPH COVID. If you search that, it'll be the first hit.
Again, I'm going to reiterate what Simeon said. You are a treasure to the Gwinnett community. You have been essential in getting information for the Gwinnett NAACP. We just thank you for everything that you do for our community.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come out and give people all the random information in my head every once in a while.
And for those watching in our Facebook and in our YouTube, I have in the chat there, that is the link Dr. Mitchell is referring to. So make sure you check it out. You can copy and paste it and go right to the link from chat. So thank you again, Dr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you for everything. Be safe.
All right. It's always a good time when Dr. Mitchell's on, and I always appreciate those COVID updates. You know what I mean? And ironically, Dr. Mitchell was at one of the very first meeting I came to with the Gwinnett NAACP. She was there, my very first meeting. It was at Mount Carmel, and it was the very first meeting, and she was there, and it was before she was elected. And so it's awesome to see that partnership in action, where it's not just about getting elected. They continue the partnership after elected and are willing to show up for our community. So big shout out to her and a lot of the folks that we have who continue to show up for us. And I know we have a jam-packed agenda. So what we got next? President Poole?
Well, we have Sam Park, who is the head of our Gwinnett delegation at the Georgia State House, the dome, under the big gold dome. Sam will be the strategist for us then. And we also have my state senator, Sheikh Rahman. Let's bring them into the room.
Gentlemen.
And also, Sheikh is the lead for the Senate Democrat. So let me make sure that I get his kudos in there. Gwinnett, when we elect people, they show up and show out, and are leaders at the state level. Welcome, gentlemen, to the NAACP. Welcome.
Good evening, Penny. Thank you for having us. Simeon,
Thank you. Thank you. It's always great to be with the community. That's all about. That's why you elected. That's why we are here.
Okay, we know that Representative Park has to leave at 8, so we're just going to give him a segue to update us and let us know what's going on and the urgency that's coming up this Thursday. And we need people to show up Thursday. So Sam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Penny. So first and foremost, of course, always a pleasure to hear from Dr. Mitchell. Unfortunately, she has been drawn in with another Democrat, but we've seen Republicans, unfortunately, continue to do this. It's to try and draw out not just one, but two public health experts. The other person I have in mind being Senator Michelle Au, who has also been targeted by the Republican Party through redistricting. And I think redistricting is a perfect segue into what happened during the special session and where we have to go as a county. Gwinnett County is the epicenter, the political epicenter in the state of Georgia. How we vote, the rest of the state will eventually follow. We demonstrated that during the 2020 elections, as well as during the 2021 elections, and electing Senators Warnock and Ossoff to the U.S. Senate that helped change the course of the Joe Biden administration. And so what we saw during the special session a few weeks ago was an intentional targeting of the county in two very harmful, dangerous pieces of legislation that would have undermined local government and would have diluted the power of people of color who had been elected to positions of power for the very first time in Gwinnett's 200 plus history. One of the proposals I'll talk about is the one to literally double the size of the county commission, in which it would not only dilute the power of our county commissioners, who are all people of color, but it would literally strip the power of the first Black woman to ever serve as chair, to ever lead this county. It was because of Gwinnett voters, it was because of Penny and other members of the Gwinnett NAACP who came down to the Capitol, who made the calls, who wrote the emails, that we were able to stop those initiatives. The other initiative, of course, was one to redraw the lines of the Gwinnett Board of Elections, to make the elections of Gwinnett Board of Election members nonpartisan, and to try and cut short the terms of, I believe, two of the school board members. Again, we were also, or once again, successful in stopping that bill. Senator Clint Dixon, who was leading this effort with the support of his Republican House members, they are continuing, particularly when it comes to the nonpartisan election of school board members. Now, one of the reasons why we were able to stop these initiatives during a special session was because we were limited in terms of what could be addressed per the governor's proclamation. Those limitations will be removed in less than 30 days as we return to the regular session on January 10th, 2022. And of course, we've been given indications of some of the crazy far-right pieces of legislation that are going to be introduced, in which we will have to do everything possible to try and defeat. The other day, for example, we heard the number 2 or 3 in the Republican in the Georgia State Senate, Senator Butch Miller, indicate that he wants to do away with absentee balloting altogether, a form of voting in which so many people of color utilize to vote safely in the midst of a once in 100-year pandemic, despite the fact there was no instance of widespread fraud. They are doubling down on that kind of narrative. We're hearing that they're going to introduce and try and push through another gun bill that will bring even more guns into our communities. And of course, going back to the school board issue, Senator Dixon is currently holding study committees, and one will be held this Thursday, I believe, at 11:30 a.m. at Gwinnett Technical College, in which they are soliciting feedback. So this is an opportunity for your voice to be heard. There should be an opportunity for public comment, and let the senator and other members of that committee know where you stand on this important issue.
Okay, so Representative Park, let me stop you a minute. I want to just reiterate that there are over 300,000 Black people who live in Gwinnett County, and the impact of this reapportionment and changing the size of our Board of Commissioners. Can you go into, let's make this real for people to understand how that will directly impact them. Since the Republicans no longer can win at the local level, they are attacking us from the state level where they still have majorities. So let's make this clear for the people of Gwinnett County. Again, a county with over 300,000 Black people who live, work, and vote here.
So to be clear, we were successful in killing both of those bills that I viewed as a direct attack on people of color and Gwinnett County. Not only would it cause enormous dysfunction in local government, and we're talking about basic government services, from water and sewage to economic development. Gwinnett County Public Schools teaches 1 in 10 students, the largest school system in the state of Georgia. And so local government in Gwinnett is absolutely vital. And so again, because of Gwinnett voters, we were able to successfully stop those bills. Now, as chair of the Gwinnett State House delegation, along with my counterpart on the Senate side, Senator Sheikh Rahman, we are going to be introducing 2 pieces of legislation on the very first day of the 2022 regular session that will essentially be the Board of Commissioners proposal for redistricting, as well as a Board of Education's proposal to redistrict those maps. Right? We have successfully given them an opportunity to participate in the redrawing of their own district lines. Now, my intent as chair of the delegation is to hold over the month of January at least 3. Now, these are tentative plans, but at least 3 public hearings on any proposed map, because that is, in my opinion, what a fair process requires. And a fair process is absolutely necessary in order to produce fair maps for all of us, for everyone who calls Gwinnett home. My intent is to ensure that, we have a compromise when it comes to these local bills, because that is what these House and Senate rules also require. But most importantly, to ensure that Gwinnett voters have an opportunity to independently verify and have their voices heard on what they want their maps to look like, what they feel the Board of Commissioners and the Board of Education maps should look like. And so I know I've been working very closely with our local elected officials and ensuring that they understand the timeline, because we are under the gun, right? The special session is less than 30 days away. And apparently the governor wants these local maps on his desk no later than the end of February. But this is such an important once in a decade opportunity for people of color, for the very first time in Gwinnett, to have an opportunity to determine our collective future, our shared future, especially when it comes to these local maps of the Board of Commissioners and Board of Education.
Okay, and on with the nonpartisan maps, trying to get the Board of Education's nonpartisan, could you explain the effects that this would have on that voting process and why it would be so disparaging for Black people and other people of color to have nonpartisan school boards? Because many people still are not clear on all of that. If you could explain that also.
So the challenge with the nonpartisan issue is that it will likely move as general legislation. And so if that's something that Republicans want, more likely than not, they will be able to push it through. Now, the biggest impact when it comes to making an election partisan, a partisan election to a nonpartisan election, is that it will move the election date from November to May, right? And so we got to be on our toes. We got to be paying attention and utilizing the power of our vote in every single one of these elections. We have seen them try to manipulate the process to discourage Gwinnett voters. I mean, I still recall talking to voters in line 4 to 8 hours during the 2016 and 2018 election cycles, right? They are going to try and make it more difficult to vote. That's exactly what SB 202 did, which they passed earlier this year, and more likely than not, we'll continue to see efforts to make it more difficult to vote. Because the people, because we are informed and because we are so determined to ensure that our vote counts, now they're trying to move the election dates, right? So we got to pay very close attention to this process, and ultimately, more than anything, protect our ability to ensure that we, the people, have the ability to elect our candidates of choice.
Representative Park, in this, there's been a big ask of the citizens of Gwinnett as it pertains to fighting for this, which we all see the value for. I think one of the problems that we're seeing is it feels like the progressives in the county have been silenced. So here we are in a county of Democrats, and we have a commission board that is stutter stepping on decriminalization, right? Like, I can't tell that they're not conservative based on that stutter step, right? And so we have a situation where we need all people mobilized, but it doesn't seem like the county is in step from the Democrats' perspective to achieve that mobilization. And I think that requires looking different than the Republicans, right? Like you can't look the same or have some of those same things and then get ready for us to mobilize. So what can be done on the county level to ensure that the progressive voice is able to be heard? Because again, I spoke at the county commission meeting here just earlier this week, and you have all Democrats signaling that they're okay contributing to mass incarceration through marijuana arrests. And that shouldn't be what the Democrats stand for.
You got
right
muted,
now, oh, there we go. Sorry. That shouldn't be what the Democrats stand for in this moment. So right now, we're working to mobilize people to ensure that these seats are protected. But a lot of people are asking, are they protecting us? So what can you say about ensuring that our voices are heard and we don't just help folks get power without them returning some of that power to us in the form of policy that makes sense for our community?
We gotta hold our own accountable, right? Regardless of whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, regardless of political party, the beauty of American democracy is the ability for people to hold elected officials accountable. I am held accountable to my voters. I'm held accountable to y'all. Reach out to me, communicate with me. But I think we also need to understand and realize the risk that the system that gives us this opportunity, the system that provides us an opportunity and the freedom to elect our leaders, the freedom to ultimately determine the direction of our communities and our state. We have to understand that is also at risk. And so, while I don't want to diminish in any way, the need to hold our own folks accountable, I think this is also a moment in time in which we have to stand united. We have to stand united in facing the clear and present danger posed to American democracy and for the ability of people of color in particular to participate in our elections. And Gwinnett, we have an opportunity in which we can, for the foreseeable future, help move the state of Georgia forward. We have an opportunity to redeem this state, but we have to be strategic. We have to play the long game, and we have to, more than anything, work together. The Democratic Party is the big tent party, right? It is white, black, Asian, Hispanic. It is the party of diversity, united by our shared objectives of wanting to pursue um, that perfect union, of wanting to pursue and bring into reality the beloved community. Right, we have an opportunity here in Gwinnett to bring that about, and so yes, we should, hold one another accountable. We should debate vigorously all those issues. But when all is said and done, I believe that we got to come together and continue to move forward together.
Well, Sam, you mentioned things that I had not planned to even touch, but you're talking about the Democratic Party who is shoving candidates at us that they say we must vote for that we are not wanting. We need you to talk to the Democratic Party and let them know that people are now not voting party, but they're voting for stances, for legislation, for policy. Because if the Democratic Party will not step up and represent the people, but representing candidates who are not speaking for us, we've got a problem with this. And we want to make sure that the party politics is not what is going on, but people politics and getting the people's voices heard. So if you would bring that back, because the NAACP and other nonprofit organizations are not about party, but educating, information, and getting people knowledge so that we can make great choices. And we hope those choices are choices and policy and information that's being led by the Democratic Party. So again, we are not here about party. You're on here as our representative who talks for the people. So with that being said, let's move a little before you go into mobilization, because one of the big things that we're going to have to be doing is mobilizing the people for 2022 with all these different changes, educating the people. We want to say that it was a pleasure working with our elected state legislators regarding SB 6ES and SB 5EX on how we, as advocates, as elected officials, as the faith-based organizations, came together. Let's talk about what that's going to look like for 2022.
So to be clear, we have successfully killed both SB 5EX and SB 6EX. We have an opportunity, because of the good work that y'all did along with elected officials and other Gwinnett voters, to have an opportunity to have meaningful input in drawing the maps for the county commission and the Board of Education, right? I will be holding town halls along with Senator Sheikh Rahman, the county commission and the Board of Education in January, at least 2 to 3 town hall meetings in public about the proposed maps. Those are going to be the bills in which we're going to be moving forward. And so this is going to be the opportunity in which everyone who calls Gwinnett home will have an opportunity to have their voices and their concerns addressed to the best of our ability.
So number one, getting people to come out to these town halls. What other action items can we ask for our people in the community? People keep constantly telling us they want to work, they are ready. What are some of the things you as a legislator would like to hear from the people, or even us? What is it? How can we help mobilize? Please let us know. We want to hear from you.
So we know that there's going to be bad bills coming down the pipeline. We see Republican leaders indicate that they're going to be introducing a lot of harmful legislation for political purposes. That's going to do nothing to help people when they need help, especially as we're trying to recover from this pandemic. Unfortunately, the Republican Party seems very much focused on doing everything within their ability to hold on to power. And so as these bills begin to move forward, please, come down to the state capitol, organize, make your voices heard, and continue that momentum and electing leaders who will stand for the people, not for political party, not for their selfish ambition, but for the best interest of the people, for the best interest of Gwinnett County. That's what we have to do, especially as we go into one of the most important elections that we're going to face at the end of next year, in which we have an opportunity to elect a leader, not a Democrat, but a leader like Stacey Abrams, who has dedicated and consistently demonstrated with her actions that she cares about people and she's fighting for people. I've had an opportunity to know Stacey and to work with her. And for the past decade, she gave me my start in politics. She opened the door for me. And consistently, she has always been about the work, not playing the political games. And that's the kind of leader that we need in the governor's mansion if we want to see progress across the board for Black voters in Gwinnett, but for people across this state.
Senator Parks, real quick, and this could go to, Representative Parks and Senator Rodman, either one of y'all can answer this question. Is there any dates that we need to be mobilizing people to Atlanta at the Golden Dome when any of this legislation come down? Any specific dates that you can put out there, or specific dates for these town halls that you're talking about?
So the legislative session begins on January 10th. My goal is to have a town hall. Schedule is not set in stone, but sometime, and my objective will be to have these in Gwinnett, these town halls on the proposed maps for the Board of Commissioners and Board of Education, to make it easier for Gwinnett voters to actually come and make public comment. But when it comes to these bad pieces of legislation, I've been in the legislature for 5 years now, right? It's secretive. Right. We have to be on our toes as members of the legislature, because sometimes we don't know what it is that they're trying to push through.
Yeah, I did. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Once they start moving it through, right, they have their process lined up in which they are going to, push that bill no matter how much opposition comes out. But every single step of the way, we have to push back. We have to let them know that the people are watching and that their actions are unacceptable. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, I did read the other day, one of the representatives who I think is running for Secretary of State, if I'm not mistaken, is trying to introduce some type of legislation to ban absentee ballots altogether.
Yeah. Yes. Now that legislator, that senator, he is a leader in the Georgia State Senate. He is the pro tem. He's the number one and the number two ranking Republican in the state Senate. Right? These are not far right Republican members. This is a Republican Party, unfortunately. This is how far right they've gone, in which they want to take away a mechanism by which hundreds of thousands, millions of Georgia voters utilize to safely vote in the midst of a once in 100-year pandemic. Why? Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Again, why? Right? There's no evidence of fraud. This is only to satisfy, members of the Republican Party, not Georgia voters, not people of color, which will be harmed by these sorts of proposals. It's particularly those sorts of incredibly harmful, un-American, anti-democratic efforts that we have to galvanize and work together to ensure that those sorts of initiatives do not pass, because they will harm all of us and they will silence our voices and inhibit our ability to make progress up and down the ticket.
Okay, so I know you almost have to go. Give us what you need the people to hear right now. You are the whip for the Gwinnett contingency in the Dome, the Democratic leader. What do you want the people of Gwinnett County to hear right now on what they can do personally? Because a lot of people don't think that their one person has any effect. And then we'll wrap up with this.
I want anybody who may be listening to me or watching me to know that you have an incredible amount of power, right? You have the power to change the course of our community, of our state, and this country. And you have to understand that and recognize it and use your power accordingly. We have an opportunity to redeem this state by electing a leader like Stacey Abrams. We have an opportunity to continue to use our power to move this state forward for all of us. And so rest up and get ready for a very challenging year, because, you know, I'm fired up and ready to go. I'm looking forward to seeing y'all and being with the folks, with the people out in the community. But rest up and get ready, because we got a lot of work to do.
Okay, fired up, ready to go. We heard you. Thank you. Okay, and just let us know when you have to leave. Let's pull Shaken in on this picture. And I call him Shake because he is my personal representative. So State Senator Sheikh Rahman, come, let's hear what you have to say on these issues.
Glad to be with you all. Glad to be. I cannot. I mean, it's great to have a people like Sam Park at the house, and Dr. Mitchell, you know, at the house. At this, you know, I mean, we got. I mean, Gwinnett. If you look at, you know, one of the pictures that we put it in on social media, the representative that we have in Gwinnett is so diverse. That reflects who we are as a Gwinnett County legislator, and who we are as a people of Gwinnett. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited about the next session, because you know why? Because I'm fired up too, just like Sam. I'm fired up to fight for Gwinnett, for the state of Georgia. We're not going to give up. I want you to know something. We will not give up. What's going on? What happened with the last couple of bills the Senator Clint Dixon tried to push through? We stopped. We stopped, not because as a legislator, not because you all want, all of us. I have seen that not only Gwinnett and NAACP and other organizations from Gwinnett showed up at the Capitol to testify, to protest, to stand with us at the press conference that we had. So all of us worked together to stop. So what happened next session? They're going to try to do whatever they can to grab the power that we gained in Gwinnett County, and we're going to do whatever we can to stop. We're not going to say, oh, you know, this is a process. This is not just we stop them right now. They're going to come back, and we're going to come back too. We have to come back strong. We have to really come back strong. So I'm going to say one thing, because we have the special study committee that going on at the Gwinnett Tech on Thursday. I want you all to show up. Unfortunately, that same day, I have my own study committee meeting at the Capitol that I have to prepare. I won't be able to be there. So it's not excuse, just this is my official duty that I'm stuck with it, that, you know, coincides. So I want you to come show up and speak out. Speak out your mind, whatever you want. And we're not going to give up.
Repeat that date.
Whatever it takes.
And Senator Rodman, can you repeat that date and time that you want people to show up?
This is this Thursday. This Thursday at 11:30, I believe, 11 or 11:30, if I'm correct, at the Gwinnett Technical College in Lawrenceville, right off Sugarloaf Parkway. The Gwinnett Technical College at the auditorium over there. So I think it's 11:30, if I'm correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So this is the one they're trying to special. I mean, they're going to come up with some kind of bill to get rid of the partisan electionship. They're going to try to make it a school board election as a non-partisan. That's the goal. But you know what? A lot of crazy bill going to come in the next session, because as we saw, like as of yesterday, the Bushmiller, who is the second pro tem at the Senate, the second highest ranking person in the Senate, he already filed a bill to get rid of mailing box, drop box. Already there, you cannot, they made a restriction. You can do only when the office is open inside and everything else, all kind of nonsense. I had a bill myself to open up in last session. It's currently there to open up, more drop box. Now they want to get it up totally. I mean, this is insane. This is insane. This is just hold on to power. I didn't put it in the social media, I guess, when the last bill came in, I actually called out Senator Dixon, because as a Senate delegation chair, he didn't even call me, had the courtesy. I even told him, have a decency. You should have at least called me and let me know. I had to get that news from the newspaper. That bill was, submitted without even, discussing to any of the Gwinnett legislator. Forget about myself. I mean, any of the Senate, any of the colleagues, something that important.
Senator Rahman, what is the protocol to introduce bills? Please, if you could explain this to the people who are listening? What is that protocol?
The protocol is we have a Senate delegation. As a chairman of the Senate delegation, if any bill comes out that affect local county commission or school board, has to come to our committee at the legislative committee that we have at the county level. Then the majority of the senator has to vote on that particular issue, that whether we're going to bring a bill. That's called local, any local bill. So what did Senator Dixon tried to bypass the system because of the special session. They said, we don't have to go through the process. Let's file something and alter the whole thing. So that's why I went to the Senate floor and I called out Senator. I say, this is not the rules. This is not the bylaws is called for. This is why you're trying to circumvent the system, circumvent the rule of law. This is just you trying to violate every single rule that we have, not only in this Gwinnett delegation. This is the Senate rule as a statewide. And I told them I cannot file any bill locally that affect in Savannah, or Columbus, or Macon, or somewhere else. And why are you trying to come, leave us alone? And I told him, leave Gwinnett alone. This is not, and I told the senator too, straightforward. I said, I'm not going meddling in your district, in your area, so give us a respect, at least as a Gwinnett senator. Just because you can do something in a special session, you should not do it. And I even told them, I'm just warning you. People, Georgia voter are going to come, Gwinnett voter are going to come after you. I have no problem saying that in the Senate floor. That's what I said. I say, you are trying to grab a power because after 200 some years, we elected the minority in a county commission school. Now you don't like it. And I said that out at the Senate floor. It's recorded. So, the only reason I was able to say this kind of word because of the people of Gwinnett elected me to represent them. Doesn't matter if the white, black, or Hispanic or Asian American. This is what we are. And I told them Gwinnett is not changing. Gwinnett's already changed for the better, for the future. What Gwinnett looks like right now, 20 some years later on, whole United States is going to look like that. We are ahead of the curve. We are leading the nation. We are not leading the Gwinnett. We are leading the state of Georgia. We are leading the nations. So let's don't be, let's deal with it, what we have, for the better of this, for betterment of Gwinnett and for the betterment of this state of Georgia.
Okay, thank you for joining us, Edward Paul, our first vice president. Do you have any questions for Senator Rahman?
Nah, he laid it all out there. Thank you for updating that. We appreciate your spirit and your fighting spirit and everything. Like we getting some feedback somewhere. But no, I don't have any additional question. Thank you for the date. So everybody come out to Gwinnett Technical College on Thursday at either 11:30. We'll get the exact date and time posted on the Gwinnett NAACP Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages for you all to know, because we definitely need people to show up and mobilize for that Thursday date that they're going to be discussing this legislation, SB 5EX and 6EX.
One more thing I want to say, don't underestimate your power. You have the power. And what happened is, because next session will be so fast, we're not going to know exactly what they're going to file. And as soon as you file, we can notify you. You're going to know. So you'll have to be ready too. We are ready. I know I'll be ready for next month, next few months to fight whatever it comes out. But we're going to ask you, you're going to be quick. We'll probably tell you we need to show up next day or a couple of days later on. You're going to be quick, and I hope you're going to show up. Or sometimes, one more thing, whenever we have bills or something comes up that we don't like, we get a lot of email. I don't mind calling my office, sending us email, but it's most important that you send it to some of the folks they are proposing, especially this bill, or either, mostly Republican folks. They need to hear, their office need to hear a lot more than we are. I mean, I appreciate the phone call and email, everything else, but we have to make sure, consider them first before us. Even if you miss me, miss us, miss me, that's okay. Right. Because we can be, we can be there. We can be there.
Right. Knock on the door to people that's passing these bad bills.
That's right. Time to sneak in. Because they're not going to advertise. They're not going to tell you that we're coming in. They're going to file something, and we're going to hear from the newspaper, or after we go to the session, we see something on our desk we might not even know. the night before.
And also speaking about reapportionment, that same night, on the 16th, December 16th at 7, there will be a meeting at GJAC talking about these same issues that we're speaking about now, as well as the ARPA fund. So put that on your calendar also, Gwinnett, on December 16th at 7 p.m. at GJAC. There will be more conversation about this topic. And we want you to get educated. We want you to know for yourself what is happening, how you can insert. Joining the Gwinnett NAACP, you will get directly inserted because we need people to show up. We need people to lobby. We need people to be at the Capitol to support. If any other comments, Sheikh, we will go and talk about local information and events that the Gwinnett NAACP will be sponsoring. FYI, we will be at the Capitol on February 2nd, 2022, doing just that, bringing families, bringing youth at the lobby day that we did back in 2020. We were shut down because of COVID last year. God forbid we do not have to get shut down again and that Omicron is raging, but we plan to be at the Capitol February 2nd, 2022, all day with Gwinnetians as well as people from all over the state lobbying our elected officials. We will be looking for you. And as a matter of fact, we will get the Gwinnett contingency to work with us on that endeavor. So not just the 2nd, we will have an economic front on February 4th. That's Friday, February 4th. So look for us there. We will bring as many of you as possible with us. We will be there from breakfast to lunch to giving information in the rotunda, the West Wing. So we want you to come out February 2nd to be at the Capitol with Gwinnett and other Black people from around the state standing up with our voice, lobbying for the issues that affect us.
That's great. I'll be there. I'll be there, whatever it takes. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make sure it's on my schedule right now as soon as I get off the telephone. So make sure that days, whatever it is, I'll be at the Capitol booked. But I'm glad to hear, and I'm really glad that you brought all these youth folks last time, even outside the Capitol, even Gwinnett. Next time you have any program, especially the youth, let me know. I'll come in. They need to hear, because some of the old folks, we've been doing this for a long time, but we need to new generation to get involved. That is the most important things, because sometimes some of the stuff that we've been through, I've been in this country for 41, it will be 42 years actually, yesterday. So I've seen a lot of stuff in this country, what's going on. A lot of young folks, they don't know what we've been through. And I remember just my personal story. I was told one time when I was working for a major corporation, you don't speak good English, you got a communication problem. I couldn't get promoted. You don't have a college degree. So those are the things that stopped me. I moved along. I had to fight along. You all have to fight along. We did not get here while we had, without fighting. A lot of our young folks, they don't know what we've been through. They need to hear our story. They need to hear the story, Pennypool story. They need to hear from Sheikh Rahman's story. They need to hear for Simon's story. They need to hear for Edward Park's, Paul's story. So these are stories we need to keep tell them, because sometimes they think everything just, was there, So I'm glad, you are bringing this youth. I'm excited. You getting the youth folks involved. And that's exactly what you need to do. Because this fight is going to continue. This fight is going to continue as this is going to be over. This is going to be not going to be over anytime soon.
We will
so
make sure.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. We will make sure that Representative Park has this information, because we want to get Gwinnett the Gwinnett delegation support on those days, on the 2nd and the 4th, bringing young people, bringing the business community, bringing the people from all over the state to the Capitol to mobilize and let their voices be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'll take off, I guess. Thank you,
Yes.
thank you,
Thank
thank you for
you very
inviting.
much
you.
for coming.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Representative Park, for coming.
Thank
I
you.
know, Edward, we spoke earlier. Do you want to talk about some of the upcoming events that will be happening? And before you start, let me make sure I put out there, we did our MLK Sunday Supper that's going to be held January 16th. That's Sunday, January 16th, MLK Sunday Supper. We will be having it virtual. We did it last year. Please look for events coming from us for January and in February. And of course, we want to mention the Ebony Society will be having their annual parade on the 17th. So make sure, if you are an organization, that you go to their site and have your organization, your church, registered to be represented in that parade for Monday, January 17th. That's the annual MLK parade that the Ebony Society of Gwinnett sponsors. We want to see you there. And again, our MLK Sunday Supper, we want to sit down, have dinner, and speak about issues that are affecting our family. Our Gwinnett NAACP for 2022 is going to be talking about youth, about family, about growing and getting our Black community solidified so that we have a collective voice reaching out and making these policies that directly affect our people and our community. Your Gwinnett NAACP. Let me step back some. Let Edward talk about upcoming 2022 GOTV, get out the vote, and getting you guys prepped to be fired up and ready to go. Take it away, Edward.
Couple things first. So the Political Action Committee will do a virtual event on civic education, walking people through the role of state legislators, as you just seen with Senator Rodman and Representative Parks on walking through what they do, and probably some of those people or some other representatives or legislators that was been on our program before will come back and kind of break down what they do in their day to day. So people can understand why it's important to vote. I know everybody's going to make a big deal about Warnock, Senator Warnock running for re-election, governor elect, or Stacey Abrams running for the governor's mansion, shall I say, or for governor. There's not going to be a lot of talk about her, but again, as we've seen, a lot of these voter suppression bills are coming through our state legislators. So again, you know, if people who do support Abrams or support Kemp or whatever side that you're on, you want to make sure you have state legislators that also support those political candidates, or at least in the same party with those political candidates, share the same ideology as those political candidates that you're going to be voting for as well. So again, we're going to talk about state legislative positions. We're going to discuss county commissioners and their role and their power, and how they impact our communities. We're going to talk about the governor. We're going to talk about the Secretary of State and their role and their power. So again, we're going to walk people through these positions, and hopefully we will have a virtual event with a date and time for you by the end of the month, and that will probably roll out starting in January, and that will probably go on between January all the way to May. A few things to get people.
And what's happening in May, Edward?
Yeah, that's what I was getting to next.
No,
So
the date and what's happening.
Keep in mind.
The
as
primary.
far as yeah, that's what I was getting to. So it's days to keep in mind for this upcoming primary election. The first day you can request the absentee ballot is April the 5th for the primary election. April 25th will be the last day if you're not registered to vote. In order to vote in the primary election, the 25th of April is the last day. Early voting will start on May 2nd, and then election day will be on May the 24th is the election day. So
primary.
we'll continue. So
the primary day.
For primary election will be on
Make
May
sure
24th.
you all go to that link at the bottom there where Edward is. That's how you can check out your status to know whether you can vote or not. If you don't know what district you're in, that's where you will be able to find out. And that's a great first step in getting civically engaged, knowing who your representatives are, knowing who your Congress folks are. So make sure you are going to the Secretary of State site to get all of your information around voting.
Yeah. And I'll say one last thing. We definitely want people participating in the primary election because people should be choosing who represent them for these political parties, not the political parties themselves. So again, we're hearing some things where certain candidates are being told not to run for certain political positions. I would encourage those candidates to run. Again, we don't care if you're Black, white, Asian, Native American. If you're going to be representing humanity and you're willing to get in there and fight these white nationalists at the state and federal level, you're the type of person we want to represent all people, specifically speaking for Black right now. But it does not have to be a Black candidate representing us in either party that's willing, as long as they're willing to speak to these issues and they're willing to fight white nationalism that we're seeing taking place not only in the country, but in our state. So again, we want people that's going to be willing to fight, regardless of race, color, gender, sexuality. We don't care. We need people that's going to be willing to fight. So that's what these primary elections about. Please save those dates, rewind the tape, go back, write those dates down, have them on your mind. Because again, the primary election is when you can pick your candidate. There's going to be a lot of money pumped into certain candidates that may not line up from a political ideology standpoint with representing the people, but the party is behind them for whatever particular reason. Again, if you want to elect the person that's going to run in November to represent you because you feel like they're going to fight for you, again, you have an opportunity in the primary election to vote for that person. So regardless of who's getting the most commercial, who's getting the most billboards, you the people are always going to have the final say in who represents either party to run for the election or to represent that particular party after the primary election in the general election. So write those primary dates down, and also remind people judicial seats are only voted on in the primary election. So it's definitely important to make sure you vote in the primary. Yeah. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah.
Yo, Edward,
yeah. Go ahead, Simeon.
One great update. And that judge portion and it being in the primary, that's such a big deal because those are the types of offices that affect how the law is interpreted. That depends on how our community is brought up in the system or not. All of those things. And something else you said that I think was really powerful, and I'll put it in a different way. A Black face in a high place that won't fight for us doesn't mean anything. And so this is not just about getting Black folks in office. This is about getting people in office who will fight for our needs, people who in office who understand the specific needs of our community and where those needs diverge with the larger people of color or minority community as well. And this is when, and I appreciate your view of the primary, because that's when you help determine that platform that the Democrats can run and win on or not, or Republicans can run and win on. It's in that primary season. So if we're not going out and supporting the candidates who aren't afraid to decriminalize the same thing that white soccer moms are getting rich for, if we're not willing to put that voice in the primary, then it's not going to come out in the general. And I think that there's a lesson to be learned. There's a lesson to be learned here around Gwinnett in this very moment of how we have to not only be politically involved, we have to start speaking that truth to power and letting them know that we'll put you out. And one of the things that I ended my statement on at the county commission was, I voted for you and I'd like to be able to vote for you again, because I'm saying on record, if they aren't willing to be bold, I will spend the next few years trying to get all of them out, because we're not going to do it. We got folks getting locked up. And even I saw a comment earlier when we were talking about what was going on at the county commission, and it was like, hey, well, if it's already not being prosecuted, well, that doesn't mean that you can't be locked up and held. It doesn't mean that you can't be have your family have to go through this costly process. You might lose your job because you're getting locked up, and they're not even going to press charges when it's done. And so all of these things are really, really important. And it's important that we get engaged. I believe that a great place to get engaged is the Gwinnett NAACP. So again, naacpgwinnett.org is where you can find out more and you can join. That's also where you can volunteer. This stuff that Edward is talking about, it takes people. All of that phone banking, all of the canvassing that Edward has been doing and pushing the Political Action Committee and having folks come out. And he did a series of town halls with other folks. I mean, the Political Action Committee is really active here, and we need help on all ends. So make sure you're joining and volunteering at the Gwinnett NAACP, as well as if you don't have a lot of time, you got to reach in that pocket and don't be afraid to donate to the Gwinnett NAACP. It is a whole group of volunteers who are working for the people of Gwinnett to ensure that you have a voice in the room, and understand that in Gwinnett County, as it stands, the NAACP is the premier organization in speaking for the needs of our Black constituents here and Black voters in the Black electorate. So if you're looking for a place to get involved and do something a little bit more than just be frustrated, this is a great time. Adrian's not here, but I got to say this because we are about saying what needs to be said and asking the questions that need to be asked. So come join us. Sorry for that long
No, thank
talk
you.
to you there, Edward, but you were speaking great about that need for the primary. And I hope our people understand that this is the moment to get politically involved. So great update.
Right. And if the state legislature has its way, they will make school board elections happen during the primary. So we want to bring that message home. Just like the judges are elected during the primary, this is the future that they are trying to get for our school board officials. So let's say this, and Edward, great update. We will have those dates posted. We're going to say, if you have a message for the people in Gwinnett, we're going to say, run like hell, because we need you. This is not about partisan politics. This is about policies that's going to help the people. Run like hell in Gwinnett. I want to give kudos to Commissioner Cardin, who's making sure that this legislation goes forth for the people. Okay, so this is us taking sides. This is us standing up for a policy that we believe in for poor and people who are marginalized, people who are pointed out, people who are harassed, people who have been caught up in the legal system. This, again, that was so eloquently said by Edward and Simeon. We thank Commissioner Cardin for pushing this. And now we need to stop tabling it also. We need to get this vote. And for those of you who don't vote, we will take names and we will be looking at that. We, the Gwinnett NAACP, we're going to hold people accountable. We want accountability on those we put into those offices to vote for the issues that we elected them for. Not your own personal moral stance, but for the issues that represent the people. So we want you to remember that. We need you to remember that.
And let me say this final thing. For those of you who do have political aspirations, again, you don't have to go to no fancy school to run for office. All you got to do is be willing to represent the people when you get in there, and you can run. So again, if you do got aspirations to run for county commissioner, any state legislative seats, or county seats or school board seats, please reach out to us. You can reach out to me personally. We do have a partner where we can get you training to run for office. They can walk you through step by step of how to get that training. The training is at no cost. So again, you can reach out to me at pacchair@naacpgwinnett.org. That's PAC, PAC, chair at naacp.org. Again, just reach out to me. If you do have aspirations about running for political office, we will have hopefully at our next general meeting, Ms. Carter on to talk about her organization and about their training in January, because we want to try to get everybody that want to run, get all their paperwork and fees paid so they can be on the ballot for the primary election.
Yeah, and we need to make sure that people are not running unopposed. Now, we want you to run if you have these aspirations, but we want to make sure you're also knowledgeable about the topics and the issues and the things that matter at this local level, because you're so important. We want you to be knowledgeable people running. But again, we do not need these people to be unopposed in these primary elections, where we say run, run, Gwinnett County, run.
And I just want to point out, and this is another shout out to you, Edward, even connecting our chapter with someone who can help people get prepared to run, who can, and this is something different that you see with the Gwinnett NAACP that I don't think you find in a lot of places around the country in different chapters, from a level of engagement that we have here. And our county is so different than a lot of the counties in the state and in the Southeast. With our county being such a plethora of different types of people, with us as Black folks in the county being almost 30% of the county. And this is something different than a lot of spaces. So I think you have a lot of folks who want to get involved politically and don't necessarily know the starting point. And again, a great starting point is right here with the Gwinnett NAACP. That is a great starting point for you. Because this is one of those spaces where all are welcome to learn, all are welcome to advocate, and we're very specific with that advocacy, as well as the education that we provide around that advocacy. If you saw us last election season, we were talking about how to vote. We were out at polls doing election protection, ensuring that people's right was protected and they knew how to report it. Edward, again, him and his whole crew were doing canvassing left and right. They acted like they just didn't, like they was ready to go everywhere in the county, and they were out there canvassing around our people. Again, there's no way for us to move this thing forward if you don't get involved. If you don't show up and say, how can I help? How can I move this forward? Joining our county commission meetings, joining the school board meetings, going up to the BORE. You know, one of my first experiences going up to the BORE, I went with President Poole and we did a Freedom of Information Act right then. We wrote it down right on some paper to get some documents around voting machines, right? And that was an example of how me as an individual, how I could get involved civically to affect change. And that's just the smallest of things. And there's so much going on in this county. And understand that if we don't fight, especially as a Black community, every other community is going to do well, and we will continue to suffer because no one holds the light on our people better than our people. And so we have to be willing to talk about our needs and to talk about where they're not being met, and not being afraid to name names sometimes when we got folks who aren't willing to meet us where they need to meet us to get the policy and the resources that we need as a community. So shout out to the Political Action Committee. Big shout out.
Right. They knocked on over 3,500 doors, and plus more during the runoff in early 2021 in January. So your Gwinnett NAACP knocked on over 4,000 doors last year, and that was an abbreviated session. So we want to do more. And Edward, your leadership has been dynamic. Thank you. And also, we want to remind people about the Board of Education meeting. There are over 50 committees that our county has, plus other designated committees through our legislature, being our BORE, Board of Registration and Elections, being our Board of Education, and of course our County Commission. The Board of Education meeting will be the working session at 2 p.m. this Thursday, and then the general meeting at 7 p.m. Please show up at these meetings. The Board of Registration Elections is tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Please show up at this meeting. And then we need your voice to come out. There's another 50 committees that are appointed by our local commissioners through your commission districts. So there's going to be a lot of information on how you as an individual can mobilize. We want you to mobilize with the NAACP, but you can mobilize by showing up at these meetings. We need your voices there. And we will have that information also on our website. Again, this 2022 is not going to be about the organization. It's going to be about the individual and your individual push, your individual motivation, your individual needs to make sure that your voice gets heard. Your individual push for 2022. Somebody, let's close us out in prayer. We thank y'all for coming. We thank our guests this evening. We miss our Secretary, Adrian Johnson, who does a wonderful job, who put all of this together for us. Our next general meeting will be Tuesday, January 11th, 2022, virtually. So please, we will be having much, much more information about many of the things we laid out. Remember, MLK on Sunday Supper, January 16th at 4 o'clock p.m. Remember the MLK Parade on the 17th with the Ebony Society. Go to their website and get those details. And there will be many, many, many more educational, informational events that will be coming up. The Capitol events. Be ready, be prepared. Candidates, run like hell.
Absolutely. All right, Simeon, y'all want to close it out with a prayer?
Sure. Lord, thank you for bringing us here today. Please put it on everyone's hearts and minds that right now is the moment to speak loud about justice. Right now is the moment to ensure that the greatness of this county is seen in all of its population. Right now is the moment for you to get involved. Lord, thank you for blessing us. Thank you for blessing those who listened, and also put a special bug in the folks who didn't listen as well, and make sure they get the information needed to bring our people forward. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Be safe. Have a blessed holiday. Again, we want to shout out to our school board members that they be safe and protected. And we just thank you for sharing this time with us. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, lift up the Kwanzaa spiritual being. Blessings to all.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.